So should we start? I think we are.
Yeah, we are live on YouTube as well. You can go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Hello, everybody. Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm really excited to be here and talk to all of you. My name is Preeti Menon. I am an educator. I've been teaching for the past 32 years. And recently I published my debut novel. It's called When the Jungles Whisper, and HarperCollins has published it. And I'm here to talk to you about that book, which has given me a fresh spin on life and a very exciting perspective on so many things. I'd like to introduce you to my niece and one of the illustrators of the book, Divya Menon. Divya will also be talking to us a little bit about her experiences and her journey. But I'd like to first talk to you about my journey, this beautiful journey of mine when I started writing this book. One of the most beautiful sounds to wake up to is to the chirping of the birds, and that it heralds a new dawn, a new day. And one of the most incredible sights is a sunrise or a sunset. One of the most exciting moments is to witness a free animal in its natural habitat in the jungles of our country. And so these are the experiences that I bring to my book, When the Jungles Whisper. It's such a beautiful sight to see animals free, carefree, roaming around and playing by their own rules in the animal kingdom. And there are many times when I have wished that we could also play by our rules and play fair. And so these are some of the moments that I bring into my book. A story, and I believe that even as an educator, I've always maintained that storytelling is one of the most powerful medium of instruction. And also, it's a great way to bond with the students, with the children. Okay, so there's always a story behind a concept. There's also a story behind an idea. So let me begin my talk today by telling you a story. Okay, think about this story. So all of you, I'm sure all of you are familiar with the story of Little Red Riding Hood, right? Okay, so Little Red Riding Hood, as we all know, she one day her mother told her, okay, your grandma is not feeling well, so I'd like you to take this basket of goodies and go to her place. Now, there are two rules that you have to follow. Okay, rule number one is that you do not talk to strangers. And rule number two, you follow a sure path. That is a cobble street. There's a path along the woods, so you have to follow that. And because her grandma's house was across the woods, so she had to cross the woods in order to reach her grandma's house. So these are the two rules. One, do not talk to strangers, and 2, follow the path. Okay, the actual path. Oh, yeah, sure, great grandma, I'll do that. And then she wears on her famous hood, and then she skips and walks, and merrily she has a great time. She takes a basket of goodies. And now, as she was walking by, along the way, her eyes just, noticed something. So when she turned towards her left, she saw the most beautiful wild flowers growing over there in that wood. And so she said, oops, oh, nice. I can just go across and pluck some wildflowers for my grandma. She's going to be very happy. So she steps away from that path and she crosses over, goes to the woods and starts plucking these wildflowers. And while she was doing that, suddenly she notices, just on the other side, she notices some beautiful, juicy red strawberries. And she goes, oh, strawberries. Oh, okay. I'm going to go and pluck some strawberries for grandma because I'm sure she'll love that too. So she goes around plucking strawberries. Now, here comes the big, black, ugly wolf watching her. And then in his very suave way, he comes to her and says, "Oh, hello, you're new." And she goes, "Oh, yes, I am." And then she blurts out everything that she's not supposed to say. She said, "Oh, I'm plucking flowers and I'm plucking strawberries to give it to my grandma. And she lives down here, blah, blah, blah." And she tells the entire thing. She blurts it out. So the wolf goes, "Nice. Oh, very nice. How kind of you. How thoughtful of you to, give all these things to grandma. All right, see you. Bye-bye." And then, of course, you know what happens. He runs ahead to the grandmother's house, gobbles her up. He doesn't chew her, mercifully. He just gobbles her up. And then he puts on the grandmother's clothes and then hides and waits for the grandmother. Now, along comes Red Riding Hood, and then she goes to and then she says, "Oh, grandma, what big eyes you have." And he goes, "All the better to see you." "What big hands you have." He says, "All the better to hug you." And then, of course, "What big teeth you have." "All the better to eat you." And then he jumps out of bed. And when he does that, she screams, Red Riding Hood screams, and a woodcutter hears that, and he comes and he takes the axe and he cuts open the wolf's stomach, and out pops grandma, absolutely fine, because he had only gobbled her up. And then that's it. All right, so the rest is history. And of course he kills because he cut his stomach open, and so the wolf dies. Now, let's switch over to the wolf side of the story. Let's hear the wolf story. So the wolf says, "I was just sitting in my house or roaming around, just enjoying. I was in my house. All right, the woods is my home. And along comes this girl with this garish looking bright red, jarring for my eyes. She comes wearing something ridiculous, and she comes to my part of the woods, and she starts plucking my strawberries, and she starts plucking my wildflowers, and she doesn't even ask me permission. Now, she trespasses on my property, and suddenly I'm the villain? How is that fair?" And then another thing, you've already you've described me as big, black, ugly wolf. What are you doing? You're already coloring the notion of all the people. You've already stereotyped me. How is that fair? How am I now the villain and she the victim? There's a point in all the story. So here's the thing. This is what I want to bring to the children through my story, that animals, they have a side of their story. And this is what we are unfortunately doing. People, humans, as I call them in my story. There's this overarching theme in my storybook is this wildlife and human conflict. And as a result of that, there's this loss of habitat and ensuing vulnerability, and the animals then become endangered. So don't we have a right to, don't animals have a right to say their part of the story? Don't we need to let the people know their side of the story? They can't speak. I mean, but we have to let people know that we are harming them when we take away their land. Okay, so these are the experiences I'm bringing to my story, When the Jungles Whisper. Okay, so when I started writing, I knew exactly who my target audience would be. It was children, because there's the most innate quality that the children have is empathy. They are naturally empathetic, and they're naturally curious, and they're naturally kind. Somewhere along the way, we just kind of drop that beautiful curiosity, just kind of dies. There's just so much happening in schools, so much happening around the world today. So it's just that natural curiosity just kind of dies down. But we need to revive that. And we need to remember there's just so much that India and the jungles of India have to offer us. And so those kind of stories is what we need to bring alive, okay, in my book. And another thing with, so when I started writing or thinking about these ideas have been swirling in my mind for a very long time. And they were in the back burner because, teaching happens, life happens. There's just so much quotidian chores and tasks that we are just doing in a very mundane manner. So stories just, in any case, there are stories. I bring stories to life every day in classes. But to translate all those experiences that we feel and to make children also excited about story writing or creative writing is what was my objective. And when I was thinking about how to structure this, I thought of how children actually like patterns. For them, patterns is a very exciting idea. It just intrigues them. So I felt, okay, why not structure it in alphabetical order? There's just so many critically endangered species in our country. And so I chose 26 different species. Some of them were endemic to that region. But I mean, at the rate at which we're going, if we don't take care of them, they too will become critically endangered. And then I just thought of an alliterative title to create that little excitement and hook the children. Because we need to grab their attention. There's just so much around them that is so distracting that how do you retain the attention? And that thereabouts came this idea of alliteration. And after that, it was history. So then along with that, I also had to research their habitat, their features, their characteristics. They all have personalities. Every animal has got a personality of their own, just like humans. So to research their personalities, what they eat, their favorite food, their natural, they all have a common enemy. Their common enemy is human. So sad, isn't that? I mean, that's something for us to actually think about and work towards. We need to change that. Okay, so. And then, of course, then I had to actually research what they, for instance, I don't know, many of you would have read the book, or some of you would have read the book, and some of you would have heard about the book. But there are many instances just for example, it was a learning experience for me, how the snake, one of the cobra, the female cobra, or cobras, as such in general, they can't really hear. They feel the sensation, the vibrations from the ground, and then they sway. So what do we think? We have a snake charmer sitting over there in a rustic surrounding and playing the pungi or the pipe, and then you feel that the snake is actually swaying to your music. That's not it. So there were many learning experiences for me as I started writing this book. So anyway, before I continue, I'd just like to tell, if there are children over here, I'd just like to say that just make a mental note of what you'd like to ask me. When as we go along the way, if you have any questions, raise your hand, or after we speak, you can ask me some questions about it. Okay, so I'm going to ask my niece, I'm going to ask her to speak something about the illustrations, because that also was a major part of bringing together this book. Illustrations, because I believe that illustrations completely just change the whole thing and bring the characters to life. So Divya, over to you.
Hello. Hi, everyone. So I'm Divya. I designed the front and back cover of the book, and it's my debut book illustration as well. I'm honored to have gotten the chance to design the book for my aunt's first book, and I love the book. I read it one story a day, exactly how bedtime stories are. It's not like you read for a really long time when you're a child. It's a short story. So I do it that way, and I just relish the book story by story. So how I went about with the design is my aunt told me what she had in mind. She was like, so I'm writing a book, and all the stories are in place, and I want you to do the cover for me. I wasn't really sure because I haven't professionally, done any art before. I am a passionate artist, but I have like I'm a seasonal artist. When I feel like, then it's a whole range of paintings, and then I don't see my paintbrush or canvas for months together. So anyway, I just said, okay, what I'm just going to try and do this because I also want to do that. I don't want to miss out on the opportunity. Most of the illustrators use softwares to design, and I painted with the traditional way with paintbrush and on a canvas. And so yeah, she told me about the story, and I knew what the animals were, and of course, all the animals don't come into one picture or one scene, but for the for the feel of the book, we brought them all together. So I did look up on how the pictures of those endangered species. I saw like because I need a reference for animals and birds. So I did that, and then the background was just out of imagination. I grew up in Kunur, so very close to nature, and of course, while growing up, we don't really, you're not a child looking at the mountains and trees and saying, "Oh, I'm so lucky to have it." You just take it for granted.
Exactly.
Yeah, only when I left Kunur, like to study and then to work, and now I don't live in Kunur anymore. But I long to go back there, and the reason is to be close to nature because I mean I haven't traveled as much as my aunt, but from what I've traveled, yes, man has made some amazing monuments, and there are some great man-made creations. But I think what God has created is unmatchable. Like that's my happy place, or that's what makes my heart pound when I see what God has created. Like not two leaves in on a tree are the same. There's nothing in nature that is exactly the same, yet everything is so perfect. Everything is amusing. You can look at the same sunset or same view or the same place, visit the same forest, and you'll never get bored of it. You'll never say, oh, it's the same trail, because there's always something new each time is a new experience. That's how it is with nature or with different places. So yeah, that's how we designed the book cover. And yeah, I the book is really close to my heart as well, because I can say I'm one of the lucky ones to know behind the stories of these stories, because yes, my aunt probably talks about her journey in the last 2 years during the pandemic, how she put the book together, and all the whole journey. But I know that this journey is not just a 2-year journey. These stories have been at the back of her mind ever since, like, we were kids. Like when I was still in school, summer holidays, she would visit us in Kunur, and she's a dreamer. So she wakes up in the morning, unlike some of us who just like sleep into the day and don't really value the sunset and all of those things. Just like how she is describing, the best thing that you're waiting for, because she actually does that. She wakes up early in the morning and just stares out, just dreams, and just absorbs what's happening around. So she would just, note down stuff and write down stories, and sometimes just, casually read out some stories. I'm talking about probably when I was in grade 8 or 9, like back then. So and we would laugh at some of the stories because it's just like funny to hear, like a panther saying something, or the names that were given, like very indie names. So it's just usually when we read stories, it's all very English or something like that. So this was also new to us. So we giggled, and we never really ever it would have dreamt of it taking shape this way into like a book that's going to reach out, that's going to be like world famous, I can say now, because I know my friends as well who have ordered the book worldwide. And yeah, so that's a journey. It's not just a 2-year journey. That's probably what everyone has seen, but I think behind the scenes is right from all those travels and all those safaris and camping nights and all of that together, because those stories are not just like this happened as a plot and end of the story, happy ending, sad ending. That's not how it is. It's more of an experience, how you, like, it takes you into that area. You get to experience what it looks like, what you see, what you are scared of, what's hidden, what you should be, all of those things. So all those things uh only comes from experience. You don't really know, or you can't express something that you haven't experienced. So I think all of that is part of behind the scenes. And I think another thing that I liked about the book or like it really makes me dwell on the illustrations. Like I love the illustrations. You can, after you read the story, you can actually look at the book and then picture what scene it is, or if there's a description of that particular animal, you can see, and who is who, or who is doing what, or in what context that image is. I think that all the illustrators have done like a brilliant job.
I know.
And
Actually, that was the most exciting part for me. Or one of the most exciting parts for me was the illustrations and collaborating with the illustrators. It was Divya who put me in touch with many of them. And there are 8 of them, 8 illustrators who brought all these 26 stories to life. And just collaborating with them, asking them what scene would work, which is the most significant. I wanted that significant moment, where I'm visualizing, because I see students when they read, they'd like to see something visual as well. And I'm always stressing on the sensory imagery, what we feel, what we see, what we smell, and what we can touch. So bringing all that sensory imagery into these illustrations and into the writing, of course. But I was visualizing how children, not students, children would actually read a little bit of the story and then pause and look at the illustrations and as you said, dwell on it, just relive that moment and then go back to reading. So that was the effect I wanted, and all the illustrators gave me that effect. Yeah.
And also, I think not all the animals are very familiar because these are endangered species. So,
Right.
if it's just a common cow and bear and things like that, kids can picture what they look like. But some of these are not very common. You don't know, a lot of the endangered species living in Andaman, for example. You probably know a few animals around where you stay or where you visited. So, or in the zoos or wherever you have exposure to animals. So it really helps to bring that story to life instead of having children Google and find some images that are not really in context. So this is a great idea, and hats off to you. Hats off to my aunt to coordinate with the illustrators, because having worked in the design field earlier, I know how hard it is, and clients are really harsh. When they want work done, they're like, I need it today, I need it tomorrow, or like deadlines and stuff. She's like been extremely patient. I think it helped to have like a teacher be the author. She was very patient. She understood that artists need their creative space, and she was like, okay, take your time, let me know when it's possible. All right. And like very, very gentle, because that is also important. You don't want to get an output on a deadline and not really have what the artist really wants to do.
That's an important point you brought up, because my audience are the children, and I know how they when they read, they want to have a beautiful, enriching experience, and that's what we want for them. So in order to do that, you need to give them time. And there are actually a lot of things that I've learned from the children, from my the children that I've taught over the past 32 years. I've learned so much from them, and it's a give and take in learning. So yeah, they have taught me many of the characters that I have created. All these 26 characters, they're commonalities. There's one common thread, similar thread that ties them all together. They're all unique. They all have different attributes, but there's just that so many common threads that bind them together. And that is, the children are innately curious. They love nature. They if you give them a chance to explore, they will. They ask questions, and many of them ask really intelligent questions. So we just need to give them that foot in the door, so to speak, for them to enjoy nature and explore it. There's so much that India has to offer. So just instead of going out to the regular mall, hanging out over there, instead go take a safari, or go to the lung space, the green space in your city. Just enjoy the sights and sounds that nature has to offer you. And that is what I bring to my storybook. Right. I'd be happy to answer any questions if there's anyone who wants to ask me anything.
Or also share ideas, because we're talking about the human and the animal conflict. So if there's anything that you would like to share that's that would be a productive output of this conversation as well. Any ideas that you have, or if you're doing something to help resolve this conflict in whichever way is possible for you, that is also that would be like a larger picture or purpose of reaching out and solving a problem.
Adding on to that, one of the main objectives of writing the story was also to have more children in future take up jobs or take up any kind of career that would help in conservation and preservation of our rich faunal diversity. We have got so much, and if students, I have so many students who have gone on to become marine biologists and Nat Geo photographers and wildlife enthusiasts. So this is what we want to see in the world. We want more and more empathetic people who will work towards preserving our rich faunal diversity. And another thing, and I actually bring that in my last story, because we always say this world is this world is for everyone. This universe is for everybody, for all creatures. So why not? Why not make space? Why not make room for them as well? So that's another thing that I strive to bring.
I have a question. I mean, you can answer it, or if anyone else also would like to pitch in, feel free to. Sometimes you see the conflict is out of fear. So like when you see a snake, most common man, the tendency is to kill it. It's like it's a dangerous animal, kill it. That's the most common tendency. If you feel trapped, or for whatever reason it can come back, if you shoo it away. So what do you have to say to people whose conflict is out of fear mainly? Because I understand when it's something like a sport, if you're hunting for sport, or if you're cutting down forest for building homes, I mean, they have it's clear. But out of fear is something that I would like, because the intention is not, it's a very thin line of it's always justified when you attack, when you're provoked. So what do you have to say about that?
No, I mean, so those are ideas that those are incidents that I've also grappled with. I mean, we do have that in urban spaces that we live in. We do see the occasional snakes, and there are some times when people kill them out of fear. And then there are times when people are calm, and then they call the forest reserves. They call people from the forest reserves who come quickly. They respond quickly within an hour, with half an hour, and then they take the snake. They remove the snake and they put it in a gunny bag, a rucksack, and they take it back and release it into the wild. So to this effect, one of the things that I did was get in touch with wildlife conservationists. So I had the privilege of talking to Romulus Whitaker and Dr. Ullas Karanth, who are wildlife conservationists, and they strive and they work relentlessly to help conserve these animals. So while I was writing my stories, many times I asked questions and I cleared my queries, my doubts that I had, and they helped me refine my stories. Dr. Raju Kasambe, who's an ornithologist. So I would ask them, so in these kind of scenarios, what do you think would happen? What do you think people usually do? So they would give me all these tips, and that's how a lot of these ideas were formed. But yes, I mean, I think the main thing with fear is just increasing awareness. How do you increase awareness? By reading more, by attending talks, by going out and seeing animals in their natural habitat, and then just feeling happy and grateful that there are operations in place, there are conservation measures in place. So there's still hope. There's a lot of hope, and a lot of good things are being done by humans. So my stories are not just sad stories, but they're also stories filled with hope for children to know that yes, adults, people are out there doing good work for these animals.
I think awareness is key. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. right.
Even something as important as bees, like when there's a hive close by to your house or in a building area, you usually,
Yeah,
want to burn it down and things. And there are other people who are aware, and the other extreme who don't even want to consume honey if bees are harmed in the process of harvesting it. So I think awareness is
yes,
really good, and I'm sure, like with the book, people will read up more about it, and
yeah, that's
that's
right.
the whole. That would be the ultimate, success story of the book as well. I mean, of course, yes, it is entertaining. It is informative, and it's all of that. It's a very holistic experience of reading it for all age groups.
Right.
I would really recommend it. Like as an adult, I love it, and yeah,
Yes. So
really, yeah.
that's my request to all the children out here who are listening in, and to parents. Just let your child discover the innate qualities of empathy and compassion in them. Just take them out, take them to all these beautiful national forest reserves that we have in our country. Let them explore. It is amazing what we have out there, and it's a humbling experience, actually. Just being out there in the wild and seeing them in their natural habitat is an absolutely humbling experience, and they learn so much. They're all the more richer for that. So thank you all for listening in, and thank you for just being here, and if you have any questions, you can always write to me, reach out, write to me, and yeah, just go out and read. The more you read, the richer you become in thought and in action. Okay.
Yeah, there's an Instagram page, PT's Author's Thoughts. So feel free to write to my aunt if you have any questions or ideas or anything that you'd like to share, feedback as well of any kind. She's always open to feedback as well.
Yeah. I would also ask you, Divya, to keep drawing and keep illustrating, because I know what a tough time I had with you. By the way, Divya is going to plant 1,000 trees in Kunor in another 3 days. So yeah, so even in your community, plant trees, love nature, love them unconditionally, go out, see animals in their natural habitat, and just enjoy the small things that we take for granted. Just enjoy them. Okay, bye-bye, and thank you so much.
Thank you all for